Some that only should be home finance to the category. Let's say that can have the premier just have a technical argument that the decision that we have. You have discussed how to overcome fear and clear control steps in life on the social media platforms. In this regard, we talk with Claudia. Hello, Claude.
Hey there, Shabir. I think that might be a transcription mix-up. Did you mean to say hello? Or were you asking about something else? What can I help you with?
Today, my discussion topic is how to overcome fear and take bold steps live on your social media platforms. In this regard, my first question that is what is fear and why do people experience it?
Right, so
Again,
you're asking about fear itself, like what makes it weird and why people experience it when it comes to social media. That's a good starting point. Fear on social media isn't really weird, actually. It's
my
quite
question
natural.
my question is what is fear and why do people experience it?
Got it. You're asking what is fear and why do people experience it, yeah?
Yeah.
Fear is basically your brain's alarm system. It's a protective instinct that kicks in when you perceive a threat, whether that's physical danger or something like social judgment or embarrassment. When you're thinking about posting on social media, fear often shows up because you're worried about how others might react. Rejection, criticism, being misunderstood. It's deeply human, and it evolved to keep us safe in groups. So we're naturally wired to care what others think.
Okay, my second question, how can fear prevent us from reaching our goals?
Good question. So fear acts as a brake on your ambitions, really. When you're afraid of posting on social media, you end up staying silent instead of sharing your ideas or building an audience, which means you never get the visibility or opportunities you might have had. Fear keeps you playing small. It stops you from taking the risks that actually lead to growth, whether that's gaining followers, establishing yourself as an expert, or connecting with people who could become collaborators or customers. Essentially, fear and inaction become self-fulfilling prophecy where you never find out what you're actually capable of.
Okay, and next question, that is, what are the most common fears people face in everyday life?
Right, so the big ones in everyday life are pretty universal, really. Social anxiety, worrying about judgment or embarrassment, is massive, especially with social media. Then there's fear of failure, which keeps people from trying new things. You've also got financial insecurity, health concerns, and fear of missing out. There's also the fear of being irrelevant or not good enough, which ties directly into why people hesitate posting online. And honestly, a lot of these fears feed into each other. If you're afraid of failing publicly, you won't post, which then feeds into anxiety about your career or influence. Does that cover what you were curious about?
Okay, what is difference between fear and caution? Caution.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by fluid and cushion or cursion. That might be a transcription hiccup. Are you asking about something related to fear and social media, or did you want to shift topics? Let me know and I'll help sort it out.
What are the most common fears people face in everyday life, and how do you identify the root cause of your fears?
Right. So the most common fears people face day to day are things like fear of failure, fear of judgment or rejection, fear of the unknown, and fear of missing out. Those tend to show up across most situations. As for identifying the root cause of your fears, you've got to get curious about them. Ask yourself what exactly you're afraid will happen. Like, if you post something, what's the worst case scenario in your mind? Often you'll find the real fear underneath isn't about the post itself, but something deeper, like feeling like you're not good enough or worrying people won't like you. Once you name that, you can actually work with it.
Okay, can fear ever been beneficial? Why or why not?
Hmm. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by chance will ever be beneficial. Could you rephrase that a bit? Are you asking whether taking chances or risks can be beneficial, especially when it comes to overcoming fear on social media?
Yes.
Right, so absolutely, taking chances is genuinely beneficial, especially when it comes to fear. Here's the thing, every time you push through fear and post something anyway, you're gathering real evidence that the worst thing you imagined usually doesn't happen. You get feedback, you survive the vulnerability, and you build confidence. That's how fear actually loses its grip on you. Plus, the opportunities you want, whether that's connections, collaborations, or growth, they only come to people willing to take the leap. Playing it safe keeps you stuck, but stepping into discomfort is where real change happens.
How does fear affect decision making?
Good question. Fear distorts your decision making, basically. When you're afraid, your brain goes into survival mode and you make choices based on avoiding pain rather than pursuing what you actually want. So instead of asking, what's the best move for my goals? You're asking, how do I stay safe? That means you might turn down opportunities, hold back your best ideas, or make choices that feel comfortable but don't actually serve you long term. Fear narrows your thinking too. You focus only on what could go wrong rather than weighing all the possibilities. It's like making decisions with blinders on.
Why do some people take risks more easily than others?
That comes down to a mix of personality and experience, really. Some people are naturally wired with higher risk tolerance. They're less sensitive to uncertainty and more drawn to novelty. But a lot of it's also about past experience. If you've taken risk before and things worked out, you build confidence and you're more likely to do it again. Conversely, if you've had painful failures, you might become more cautious. Upbringing plays a role too. If you grew up in an environment where mistakes were treated as learning opportunities rather than catastrophes, you're probably more willing to take chances. So it's partly your temperament, but partly learned as well.
How can self-awareness help in overcoming fear?
Self-awareness is huge for overcoming fear, honestly. When you're self-aware, you understand your triggers. What specifically makes you anxious about posting or putting yourself out there? You recognize your thought patterns too, like whether you're catastrophizing or being realistic. That awareness gives you choice. Instead of just reacting to fear automatically, you can pause and ask yourself, is this fear actually protecting me or is it just holding me back? Plus, knowing your values and strengths helps ground you. When you're clear on why you want to post and what you bring to the table, fear becomes easier to manage.
Okay. What role does confidence play in facing fear?
Confidence is basically your antidote to fear, really. When you're confident, you trust yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, whether that's criticism or awkwardness. Confidence doesn't mean you're fearless, but it means you believe in your ability to cope with the fear. So even if you're nervous about posting, confidence lets you do it anyway because you know you're capable. It's also self-reinforcing. Each time you act despite the fear, your confidence grows, which makes the next risk easier. Without confidence, fear wins. With it, fear becomes just background noise.
Okay. Why is stepping outside your comfort zone important for growth?
Stepping outside your comfort zone is where growth actually happens, yeah. Your comfort zone is safe, but it's also where everything stays the same. You don't learn, you don't develop new skills, and you don't discover what you're capable of. Growth only occurs when you're challenged, when you're doing things that feel a bit uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Think of it like a muscle. If you never push it, it doesn't get stronger. When you post on social media, even though it scares you, you're building resilience, learning from feedback, and expanding what feels possible. That's the only real path to becoming the person you want to be.
Okay. What are some practical techniques for managing fear? Fear.
Right, so some practical techniques for managing fear. There's a few that actually work well. Deep breathing is simple but effective. It calms your nervous system when anxiety kicks in. Visualization helps too. Imagine yourself posting successfully, handling comments well, whatever scenario worries you. Then there's the exposure approach. Start small. Post something low stakes first, build momentum, then gradually push further. Grounding techniques like the five senses method, noticing five things you see, four you hear, etc., brings you back to the present moment instead of spiraling in worst case scenarios. And honestly, talking it through with someone you trust can help you reality check your fears and realize they're usually worse in your head than in reality.
Okay. The next question. How does fear of failure hold people back?
Fear of failure is paralyzing, honestly. It convinces you that if you try and mess up, it'll be catastrophic, so you don't try at all. But that means you never get the feedback you need to improve, you never build the skills that come from actually doing things, and you miss out on opportunities because you're too busy protecting yourself from potential failure. The cruel irony is that by avoiding failure, you guarantee stagnation. Real growth comes from failing, learning, and trying again. People held back by this fear end up playing it so safe, they never discover what they're truly capable of.
Okay. How can positive thinking reduce fear and anxiety?
I'm not quite catching that one, Shabir. Posting can be reduced there
My
and citing.
question is how can positive thinking reduce fear and anxiety? Again repeating my
I'm
question.
having a bit of trouble following that one, Shabir. The transcription seems a bit jumbled there. Are you asking how posting anxiety can be reduced or how to handle anxiety in interviews? Let me know and I'll help clarify.
Okay. Question is how can positive thinking reduce fear and anxiety?
I'm not quite catching that one
I
either, mate.
think I think I should again repeat. I am asking that what sorry, how can positive thinking reduce fear and anxiety?
No worries, Shabir. The transcription's getting a bit tangled there. Could you take a moment and rephrase your question?
How
Are you
can positive thinking reduce fear and anxiety?
got it. Positive thinking can definitely help reduce anxiety. When you catch yourself in catastrophic thinking, imagining the worst, and deliberately shift to a more balanced perspective, it actually calms your nervous system. Instead of everyone will hate my post, you might think some people will like it, some won't, and that's okay. That's more realistic and less triggering. The more you practice noticing and redirecting those anxious thoughts, the less power they have over you. It's not about denying fear exists, but about not letting it write your story.
What lesson can be learned from past fears you have overcome?
That's a thoughtful question, but I should be honest. I'm an AI, so I don't have personal past experiences or fears I've overcome myself. What I can tell you is that people who've successfully pushed through fear on social media tend to learn that the fear was always bigger in their head than reality. They realize that vulnerability actually connects them with others, that failure isn't fatal, and that each small brave step builds momentum. The real lessons come from your own experiences and those of people you know. What's resonated most for you so far in our chat?
How can courageous, courageous actions build confidence over time?
Exactly right. It's a virtuous cycle. Every time you do something brave, even something small like posting despite being nervous, you gather evidence that you're capable. You survive the discomfort, you learn you can handle it, and that builds genuine confidence. Then next time, the fear feels a bit smaller because you've proven to yourself you can do hard things. Over time, these courageous actions stack up and your confidence becomes unshakable. You're not waiting to feel confident first, you're building it through action, which is the only real way.
How does fear of rejection affect personal and professional life?
Fear of rejection cuts deep into both, honestly. Personally, it stops you from putting yourself out there. You avoid vulnerable conversations, you don't pursue relationships or friendships that matter. Professionally, it's just as damaging. You don't speak up in meetings, you don't pitch ideas, you don't network or reach out to potential collaborators because you're terrified of being told no. That fear keeps you invisible and limits your growth. The irony is, rejection's actually just feedback, not a verdict on your worth. But when fear runs the show, you sabotage yourself by never even trying, which guarantees the very rejection you're afraid of.
Yeah. Next question. What
Go ahead, what's your next question, Shabir?
Why is taking the first step of fun the hardest part?
The first step is the hardest, because that's where all the uncertainty lives. You haven't done it yet, so your brain fills in the blanks with worst case scenarios. Once you actually take that step, post something, hit send, whatever, you get real information instead of imagination, and suddenly it's not so scary anymore. It's also psychological. Starting requires you to override fear and actually commit, whereas continuing is just momentum. That initial leap demands the most courage, but it's also the one that breaks the cycle and makes everything that follows easier.
Yeah. How can setting clear goals help reduce fear?
Great question. Leaders who help reduce fear do a few things really well. They create psychological safety. They make it clear that failure and mistakes are part of learning, not something to be punished for. They share their own struggles and vulnerabilities too, which shows their team that fear is normal and manageable. Leaders also provide clear feedback and support rather than leaving people in the dark worrying about how they're doing. When people feel seen, supported, and know the expectations, fear naturally decreases. Good leadership basically says you're safe to try, to fail, and to grow here, and that changes everything.
Yeah. My next question. How can fear of uncertainty be managed effectively?
Fear of uncertainty thrives when you're trying to control everything. So the key is accepting that you can't predict the future, and that's actually okay. One way to manage it is to focus on what you can control: your effort, your preparation, your response to feedback. When you've done your best, you can let go of needing to know the outcome. Another thing is breaking uncertainty into smaller, manageable pieces. Instead of worrying about will this post succeed, ask, did I show up authentically? That's something you can answer. Over time, you build trust that you can handle whatever comes, which makes uncertainty feel less threatening.
Okay, why is resilience important when taking bold steps?
Resilience is essential because taking bold steps means you'll hit setbacks, criticism, failed posts, awkward moments. Without resilience, one bad experience can knock you back into fear and stop you from trying again. But with resilience, you bounce back. You see setbacks as information, not evidence that you shouldn't have tried. Resilience lets you keep going even when things don't work out perfectly, which is the only way you actually build momentum and eventually succeed. Basically, boldness without resilience is just recklessness, but boldness with resilience is how real growth happens.
Okay, and next question. Um, why do people often regret opportunities they did not take?
Because regret is about the path not taken, really. When you don't take an opportunity out of fear, you're left wondering, what if? And your imagination usually paints a rosier picture than reality. You think about all the connections you could have made, the growth you could have experienced, the success that might have followed. Regret also sticks with us more than relief does. Years later, you'll remember the post you didn't share way more than the dozens you did share safely. It's that nagging feeling that you played small when you could have played big, and that's painful. The lesson is, it's usually riskier to not take the risk than to take it.
ये था आज का हमारा सेशन एंड चलो एक के साथ किया आपको सीखा होगा मिलेंगे इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट नए टॉपिक के साथ अपना वीडियो